Good afternoon and welcome to Finding Meaning and Resilience During the Holidays. My name is Rachel Shanshiri, and it's so great to be here with you today on behalf of Point 32. I'm so glad that you've taken the time to settle in with me and to talk about how you want to spend the holiday seasons and how you want to feel over the next several weeks. We're going to be talking about making mindful, intentional decisions around the choices that we make, who we are with, who we are not with, what we choose to hold on to, what we want to let go of, and most importantly, bring the most joy and meaning into our holidays. So I will, as we go through this presentation, please feel free to comment if you have any thoughts or questions or feedback. You can post in the chat. I'm always happy to have some dialogue along the way. This session will be recorded and available to you for the next 30 days on the YouTube channel of Point 32. So feel free to go back and share the link or review it at any point. I will give you a little bit of a background on myself so you know who I am, and then we'll get started on today's session. So I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and I've been working in the mental health field for over 25 years. I'm a therapist in private practice, and I specialize in treating anxiety, stress, and trauma. I have worked in many, many different kinds of settings, from residential treatment facilities to outpatient clinics and substance abuse facilities. And I have been running workshops like these for the past 11 plus years, bringing health and happiness to workplaces and schools and municipalities. So it's a little bit of a background on myself. I hope that you find today's session to be meaningful and helpful. Hopefully there's some strategies that you can use starting today, and also hopefully gain a little bit of insight and self-awareness around, one, what you're doing really well already that you want to hold on to, and two, what you might want to change up. Okay, so let's move on. I want to start out by just talking about creating the feelings that we want to have this holiday season. Whatever holidays you celebrate, whatever your plans are, I like to sometimes think about setting goals in terms of, how do you want to feel? So what are the ways that you want to feel, and trying to create those feelings? So I told you I'm a therapist, right? So I love feelings. And I want to think about two things. One, what feelings do you want to minimize this holiday season? So those might be feelings that have come up for you in the past over the holiday season that have been really difficult, and maybe that you don't want to feel as much this holiday season. So feelings that we really need to tend to and maybe take care of, and maybe try to change up this holiday season. And then the second thing is, what feelings do you want to create? Okay, so which feelings either have you had in the holiday seasons that you want to make more of? Or which feelings maybe have you not had that you would love to have more of this holiday season? So for example, if you experience a lot of busyness and overwhelm during the holiday season, maybe you want to create more feelings of peace or joy or meaning. So just take a moment to think about that. And if you'd like to post in the chat, feel free to post if you have feelings that you'd like to have less of, or maybe you want to post feelings that you would like to create more of. I'm going to have you think about more specifically, with those feelings that you'd like to create more of, can you think about a specific action you'd like to take that would help you to create those feelings? So for example, if you do want to experience more connection, okay, what's one specific thing that you can do to create more connection? Oh, good, we have someone posting in the chat already. So Erin says, I want to minimize anxiety and create more connection and joy. I love it. That's beautiful. Katie says, less hopelessness for the future. That one seemed tough to get rid of. Yeah, definitely. And so sometimes it's not so much a matter of maybe getting rid of. Sometimes it's more just, as I sort of mentioned, tending to or taking care of that feeling, noticing it, honoring it, giving a place in your feelings, but then also maybe balancing that emotion with others that help to soften it, right? So finding some hope, finding some connection, finding some joy that help to alleviate some of the hopelessness or sadness that you might be experiencing. So those are both beautiful responses. Thank you. And so if you can just think about this, what's one specific step you can take to create the feelings that you want to have? That's a goal for you for this week. Okay, and you can post this in the chat as well. So think about, and you can build this out to 3 or 5 steps that you can take to create this one feeling you might want to have. If you want to experience connection, then what is it specifically that you can do to create connection? Small specific goals. So maybe it's connecting with one friend, going out for coffee one day this week with one friend who's very supportive, who you really love or care about. Or maybe it's doing one family tradition that's really special for you over the weekend. All right, so Erin says, do not engage with negative or toxic people. Spend more energy on true supports. I love that. We're going to talk a little bit more about that idea when I talk about social contagion and being really intentional about who we choose to spend time with. So thank you for sharing that. Love that. All right. So let's talk about what are some of the most common stressors that people experience this time of year, and then sort of how to tackle each one of these, give you some tips or strategies around managing each of these stressors. So the things that I see most commonly pop up, and this is what we see in the literature, are holiday stressors include shopping, right? So this is a big one. Just the whole gift giving, buying and giving can be stressful in and of itself. We're going to talk about that. Socializing, right? So that's a big one that comes up for people. Being in positions where you have to socialize maybe more than you're accustomed to, or with different people that are maybe challenging for you. Family conflict. So yes, there's lots of family love at this time of year and favorite family traditions and lots of good family time, hopefully. And also sometimes there's just family conflict, right? People that you need to spend time with within your family who maybe you have differences with, or maybe you don't see eye to eye, or maybe you don't see them that often, and there's some anxiety that pops up for you around that. So we're going to talk a little bit about family dynamics. Busyness. Okay, so this is a really big one. We're talking about how to slow down and be more intentional with our time. And then grief and loss. So while there is lots of joy and happiness in the holiday season, it does often bring up a sense of loss or sadness or grief for many people for many, many reasons. So many transitions, changes that may have occurred over the year, from loss, divorce, separation, death, or separation from loved ones. So for many, many reasons, people may experience grief and loss that comes up over the holidays. We're going to talk a little bit about what to do with that. And finally, struggles with self-care. So oftentimes, because we are so sort of spread thin over this time of the year for many reasons, not just the holidays, but also end of the year goals, sort of busy tying things up at work. And oftentimes there's lots going on outside of work and family also. And so you might feel overcommitted, overextended, and sometimes your self-care might take a hit. So we're going to talk about how to take care of you, how to make sure that you're also filling your own cup so that you can show up for the people around you with your best self. Yeah, you can give because you're also giving to yourself. All right, does this sound good for you? Hopefully this sounds okay. Let's move along. Okay, for the Office fans out there, this is what Michael Scott has to say. Presents are the best way to show someone you care. You may disagree or agree with this, but thought I'd put it out there for those of you who binge watch The Office. You are not alone. Let's talk about this a little bit. So we do live in a culture that tends to support a scarcity mindset. And the scarcity mindset is about, I don't have enough, or sometimes it's about, I'm not enough. And I see these feelings come up a lot during the holidays. There's sort of this pressure and competitive nature around the holidays and gift giving and going really big, right? Big in your celebrations, big in your expression. And so oftentimes people have this feeling like, I'm not doing enough, I'm not enough, I need to give more, I need to be more. And this kind of a scarcity mindset of not being enough creates a lot of stress and anxiety and pressure. And so I like to start out by saying, well, let's see if we can switch to this abundance mindset, meaning that we have more than enough, even without all the big expensive fancy gifts and the big fancy parties and all of the glitz and glamour. We have enough to have really connected, joyful holiday seasons. And so finding this mindset, I think, is a really important way of going into shopping and gift buying and giving, because it sort of gets us out of this mindset of having to buy the biggest, most expensive, best gifts, right? Instead, when we feel like enough, right? When our gifts are just an expression of gratitude, and that we have joy in our gift giving, right? That we can find like just that the joy in choosing a gift that is significant for us, that feels like a good token of appreciation for somebody that we love or care about. That gets back to the essence of gift giving, right? And it gets away from the have to go big, have to spend a lot of money, has to be the best. And so I think it's important when we're talking about this gift giving to remember that piece there. And sometimes gift giving becomes like a big chore, right? And a big stress for people. And so there are ways that you can make it more enjoyable. And part of the problem is that we sort of get into this gift giving mode for 1 or 2 or 3 months. And so it's hard to shut it off. People have multiple tabs open on their computer at any given time. They're online shopping throughout the day and the evenings and the weekends. Every time they pop into a store, their eyes are kind of scanning for gifts. And so there's not a lot of break from that. So I often encourage people to have just designated shopping times when you come to your shopping with the spirit of joy and connection, really intentional around getting a gift for somebody that's meaningful. And setting firm limits around your budget. So not feeling like you have to spend copious amounts of money for this, right? And this is hard for people as well. But just having these boundaries around your shopping time and around your budget can help you to get back into this abundance mindset. It's not about the most expensive or best gift. It's about a significant gift, an expression of your love and connection to the people that you care about. So that's the way I like to frame gift buying and giving. Do you connect to that? Do you like that? Many of you may have already bought most of your gifts. I don't say given them yet, but you probably have done a lot of gift buying already. But if you still have things that you need to get, maybe enter it with this type of a mindset. All right, socializing. Let's talk about socializing. Because whether or not you're introvert or an extrovert, socializing can bring up a lot of stresses for people for so many reasons over the holiday season. Office parties, family parties and gatherings, community events just make us interact with lots of different people that we might not typically, or just more social time than we're accustomed to in general. So for many reasons, this can be challenging for us. If you experience social anxiety, this is going to be particularly triggering potentially for you. And you might need to really schedule your alone time. So knowing that people are in more of a kind of connecting and gathering mode over the holiday season, if you're a person who really needs some time just to disconnect, to really recharge your social battery, then it's a good idea to just actually schedule on your calendar alone time. So 4 to 5 p.m. on Friday, that might be your alone time. 3 to 5 p.m. on Saturday, you might have alone time. And that's time where you might do special things that are nice holiday traditions, or maybe you sit by the fire with a warm beverage, or maybe you read a book, or maybe you listen to a podcast, but it's time when you're not accountable to anybody else and you're not expected to be social. And then thinking about the people that you do connect with. Sometimes we don't have choice, right? You're going to bump into people at maybe holiday or office parties that you may or may not love. And so there's some choice that we don't have. And so I like for people to really think about who do they want to spend time with and reaching out to those people and being intentional about connecting with them. So going out for coffee with someone who you haven't seen in a while, or going out for dinner, or taking a walk with somebody who you really enjoy spending time with, who does fill your cup, who does make you feel connected, and who appreciates and loves you. So making the time for those people, I think, is an important part of balancing and offsetting some of the stress that might come with having to be around other people that may bring up difficult feelings for you. And also really important to just think about, can you show up with your most authentic whole self this holiday season? There's so much pressure sometimes just to kind of look the part or act the part, right? To come into your holiday party or the community events, looking a certain way or acting a certain way. And maybe you haven't seen people all year and you feel like you need to present yourself as someone or talk about the things that you accomplished this year. And that can be really draining, right? And so, can you be more authentic, right? When we're most authentic to ourselves, we can connect the best to other people because we're giving them something real to connect with, right? And so, maybe you didn't have a great year. Maybe your year was terrible. And maybe you can show up and just without having to tell everyone everything. Maybe there's certain people that you can be honest with. Again, figuring out where your boundaries are, but not feeling like you need to throw a smile on your face and be the happiest person in the room, right? To be able to be authentic is to be able to hold all the feelings that you have at any given point and honor each of them, right? So maybe there is some joy and connection there, but maybe there's also some sadness and some grief. And so noticing that and being that is part of the challenge of just being your authentic self. And this may feel best and easiest around the people you're closest to. Sometimes you may expect for yourself to have to be strong and present as, like you have it together for other people. And oftentimes, other people don't have that same expectation of yourself. So ask yourself, am I doing this for other people? Am I doing this for myself? Am I doing this because it feels like the only way possible right now? And if it's for you because it's the way that you know how right now and it just feels like what you have to do, then maybe you do that. But maybe you explore the softness and the self-compassion and being able to allow yourself to be more whole with certain people, to be able to express the different feelings and parts of you that you carry this holiday season. And so somebody talked about just a few minutes ago about toxic people, right? So watch this out for this sort of social contagion. Social contagion is that we do end up feeling like and thinking like the people that we spend the most time with, whether or not we're aware of that. Research shows us that that is the case. And so be really intentional about who you choose to spend the most time with. So even at holiday gatherings where it's a big mix of people, can you find the people in the room who you really connect with, who you enjoy being with, who bring out the best in you? And can you keep your distance or put boundaries around your time with people who you don't really love or don't enjoy spending time with? All right. Does this sound okay to you? Let's move on to the next challenge that we sometimes encounter over the holidays. Hang on one second. Somebody asked a question here. Okay. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I see a question here from Caitlin. Something that has made me anxious over the past years is the over consumerism. Yes, stores are so full of stuff, and people, especially kids, already have so much and get so many gifts. How do we navigate making anything seem special or thoughtful in that context? That's great. Sorry, I didn't see that question a little earlier, Caitlin. I hope that I touched on some of that when I talked about shopping and gift buying and giving. But so true, this question, how do we navigate making anything seem special or thoughtful when everything is just, where there's such an emphasis on big, expensive, nice, fancy, right? And just the quantity that we have out there. And you're right, and Christmas starts now, in September in the stores. So I feel like we're skipping Thanksgiving, we're somewhat skipping even Halloween. Like, it just feels like we get more and more into that mindset. So yeah, I think that shifting into this abundance mindset, meaning that we have enough, and we don't need heaps of material stuff to show our love or affection for people, is certainly a challenge. And one thing that I would say for this is think about maybe giving gifts of experience for people. Experience gifts are like taking someone to an escape room or taking someone to the movies. So if you give somebody tickets or an invitation to do something, go to a show, go to a concert together, those gifts are really special, right? Because that's time that you're giving, your time versus buying something specific or like a material good. And our time is really valuable in our relationships. So think about experience gifts as a way to counter that, some of that materialism. All right. Moving along. Family conflict. Okay, so hopefully you have a lot of love in your family, maybe your family of origin, maybe the family that you've created or the family that you've chosen. Hopefully there are people you really love and enjoy spending time with. You have favorite traditions and rituals, maybe people you don't see so often that you love to reconnect with. But there may also be challenges. This year's elections and social and political environment have brought up a lot of differences within families, a lot of conflict, a lot of difficult dynamics and conversation, differences of opinions, and whether or not you should talk about or avoid talking about political, social issues. And so if that's your case, let's talk a little bit more about that and what that means for you. Okay. So what I'd like to think about is how do we set some boundaries around this? So setting designated times or limits around when you see people that just feel really difficult for you, I think is an important first step, right? So if you have relatives that are in town for 2 weeks, can you be really intentional about when you choose to see them? So rather than just sort of having this ongoing in and out of the house kind of scenario, can you create some boundaries around that if that's your situation? And before seeing these people with whom you're anticipating some conflict, I think it's really helpful to first create a map for yourself of how you want to think and feel and act around those people. So let's say it is somebody that you have very different political, social opinions from, and you're anticipating some conflict around that, or even if there's not the spoken conflict, you're anticipating an undercurrent of conflict. And so asking yourself, how do you want to feel? How do you want to think? How do you want to conduct yourself around this person? And taking a moment to actually visualize that by closing your eyes and settling into your seat and just really calling to your mind this other person and how you're going to interact with them. You can create a set of thoughts and feelings and actions, specifically thinking about, if you want to feel grounded, if you want to feel connected, if you want to feel a sense of peace or ease, right? If you want to feel compassion, what are the feelings that you want to have? Maybe one of the things that you want to feel is the ability to set boundaries if you feel like you need to do that. And by thoughts, like what kinds of ways do you want to think about this encounter that you're going to have? And what do you want to emphasize? What's most important to you with this person? Is it most important that you set aside your differences and connect around what you have in common? Do you want to be able to connect? Do you want to be able to have conversation about things other than your differences? Do you want to be able to see and notice your similarities? So this is what I'd like for you to explore in your visualization. Just take a few moments and just think about and notice in all 5 of your senses how you want to think, feel, and act. Once you do this, you give yourself practice thinking, feeling, and acting the way that you want to think and feel and act around this person. So it feels familiar to you. You have something to reference when you're with this person you have conflict with. You can go back to that visualization and you can remember those feelings you created for yourself. If you created a sense of peace or ease, you can go back to that sense of peace or ease and recreate that in the moment for yourself. So think about how you can use visualization as a tool to practice how you want to be around the people that you have difficulty with. Any thoughts or questions on that one? Okay, visualization is a pretty powerful tool, so I think it's a great one to experiment with. All right, focus on what's in your control, okay? And so by this, I mean, there are a lot of things that are outside of your control. You cannot control how other people think, how they're going to react, what they're going to say, right? What comes out of someone else's mouth is completely out of our control. The only thing that you can control, that I can control, is how we respond, how we hold ourselves, right? Our own integrity. And the choices that we make for ourselves, right? And so what we want to focus on is how do we respond? How do we want to respond if somebody says something that brings up big feelings for us, right? And thinking about that and planning that out ahead of time. How do we want to respond? Maybe even choose specific phrases or words or sentences that you'd like to use in response to that, and you practice that. That's in your control, right? Maybe in your control is taking space from that person. Maybe you don't sit next to them at the table. Maybe you are in a different room than them throughout the evening. If there are multiple rooms you can walk between or spend time in. So think about what you can control. And then agree ahead of time. Maybe this is something that you do with this person, is that you have a short conversation with them and say, hey, I'm really looking forward to seeing you this holiday season, or at so-and-so's party. I know we have these big differences. Do you think that we could set them aside for this evening? Or I really want to spend time with you and connect, and I want to just set aside the stress of the election, if that's what's in between the two of you, right? Can we just choose not to go there? And we can go there in the future. It'll still be there for us. We can still fight about it. But can we just choose not to go there this time? And see if that's an option for you. A lot of people like to do that, set that ahead of time. And then also we get back to these boundaries, right? Like just finding the boundaries that feel right for you. Maybe spending, time at a holiday party from 5 p.m. until 11 p.m. is just too much for you. Maybe you go from 5 to 7. Okay, so think about how you set your boundaries for yourself. And that's typically a win-win, right? Then you can show up and give your best, and leave before things get bad, and to give what you can and be realistic about what you have to give, and not feel like, again, that it's not enough. Just noticing what you're capable of giving, having the self-awareness around what you're capable of giving, and then sticking to that. Okay, so we have another comment here. Really appreciate these steps for family conflict situations. Oh, I'm so glad, Teresa. That's really great. I'm glad you appreciate it. I think that a lot of people can relate to this. So hopefully this will give you some food for thought. If this is your situation, you encounter some stress around family, or not necessarily just family, but anyone, friends, coworkers, colleagues. All right, let's talk about the busyness. All right, busyness, busy time of year, everyone's rushing around. And so when we do that, we miss out on the moments, right? These really special little moments that we have throughout our life that bring us, and especially through the holiday season, that make us feel joy, connection, love, meaning, right? So can we take time to slow down, right? To intentionally slow our pace, to notice these little moments that make the holidays special for us, whether it's, you're lighting menorah, or you're decorating a tree, or you have a favorite tradition, maybe opening up Christmas crackers at the Christmas table. What are your special traditions? And can you, even in just the tiniest moments, waking up on Christmas morning, whatever it is, can you really notice in all of your senses what that's like for you? How do you feel in your body? Notice people's facial expressions, right? Notice the way that you think and the way that you feel, right? Your emotions, notice it all in a really rich kind of a way. And can you schedule your downtime? So if you're one who has difficulty slowing down, then put some downtime on your calendar, right? Get back to that. Okay, Tuesday at 4:30, I'm going to my yoga class, and nobody's going to stop me from that. Can you schedule your downtime if you need it? And so this really requires a mindset of being intentional. If we're not really intentional about taking our downtime or our slow time this time of year, then typically we'll be on autopilot and we'll just be racing around mindlessly like everybody else around us. So choose to do something different, say no to that, and choose to be really intentional and slow with your time so that you can really soak up these nice moments, and really have them become part of your fabric rather than just missing these fleeting moments of joy and connection. All right, and a little piece about grief and loss, since again, this is something that comes up for people over the holidays. Before you read this, just a quick note on that. Grief and loss, there's so many different shapes and forms this takes. And sometimes loss is not something that happened over this year. It'd be something that happened, 10 years ago that repeatedly comes up over times like the holidays. So see if you relate to this. This is what I have to say. Holidays can be bittersweet. Loss can bring the sting of memories and a resurfacing of painful feelings. Invite in the pain with the joy. Sit with both by the fire. Cozy up with them on the couch. Offer them a place at your table. Wrap your arms around them all. They are still and forever part of the beauty and connection of this season. So getting back to just being your whole authentic, connected self, right? And all the feelings that you have. Sometimes when we work really hard and we're trying to just force away the feelings that we don't want to have, we don't want to feel the pain, or we don't want to feel the loss. Sometimes we work so hard to do that that it takes up so much of our energy and it's exhausting and we feel depleted, right? And so a different approach is just noticing and honoring these feelings. Maybe there's traditions or rituals that you can have around connecting with people that you've lost, or listening to your pain. And maybe that's chatting with somebody about it, or maybe it's journaling, right? But things that you can do that will help you to tend to those feelings. And then can you find the other feelings? At any given moment, we all have so many different feelings and thoughts and sensations. So all these different parts of us, and mixed in with our grief and our sadness is joy and meaning and purpose or excitement or connection or love. And so can you find those as well? And can you allow yourself to be this beautiful mix, right? And to be that beautiful mix for other people, it gives them permission to do the same. All right. Somebody says, well said. I like the invite and the pain with the joy, invite in the pain with the joy. Give them all a seat at the table. Thank you. Yeah, most welcome. All right, so wrap it up with self-care and compassion. We're running out of time, so I'll just share these quick tips and strategies. Just make sure that you're taking time to give back to yourself. If you are somebody who gives a lot to the other people around you, to really try to make the holidays special for others, don't forget about yourself, right? Bring in that rest and that peace for yourself. Slow down for yourself, right? Give gratitude for other people and extend it towards yourself, right? Take care of the other people in your life to make sure they're enjoying the holidays and happy at the holiday season, and do the same for yourself, right? So self-care routines that you might drop, like exercise and eating well, sleeping well, those are all really important to keep up over the holiday season. Really tending to, listening to yourself and taking care of your needs this holiday season as well is the best gift you can give yourself. So thanks so much. I hope you can visualize the holiday season that you want to have and bring into action some of these steps for yourself. I hope everybody has a beautiful, special, meaningful, connected, love and joy-filled holiday season. Thank you so much for joining us, and take care.